Yes. I just opened this and I got to thinking about Norman Schwarzkopf, General of the United States Army, Commander of the U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf in 91. More than 540,000 men and women served under his command. Oh. I like General Norman Schwarzkopf. Do you remember that 91 conflict in Iraq? Yeah. And having a command of 540,000 men and women during a war, he probably was one of these types of individuals that when he gave a command, you just did what he said. And I know there are a lot of those in the Army and the Navy that would say, well, is that really what we should do, General Schwarzkopf? And he kind of give you one of those smiles. I mean, Schwarzkopf, is that a German name or is it Polish? Because I thought I had a resemblance to him, maybe as a distant relative. And when I looked at his face, because somebody asked me, well, what do you think of Schwarzkopf? And I thought, well, he looks like the kind of guy that has a good sense of humor, unless, of course, you got on his bad side. Are there any retired generals or admirals that remember Schwarzkopf? Because as I remember it, he died here just in 2012, December 27th of 2012, of pneumonia. Yes. And I really thought his death was unnecessary, as if somebody had sewn into him and loaded him up full of disease with the intent of killing him. Now, if you have a copy of his brain, technologists or those in the CIA, why don't you get me Schwarzkopf's brain? Because I'm kind of thinking that America's military doesn't really follow command the way. There seems to be some difficulty understanding exactly why it is that the United States of America does enforce the laws. And I did remember when he died, I was at my grandmother's house at the time. Yes. Somebody had thought that they could borrow Schwarzkopf during the, oh, which virtualization of the population. And I thought somebody wanted him dead, as if you sewed in and you loaded him full of broadband and then you put disease into him. So why don't we just look at exactly where is the actual mind of Schwarzkopf? Could you call the Central Intelligence Agency? It might be that former President Hu Jintao or one of his directors of intelligence gang actually did sit on Schwarzkopf in 2010, 2011, and 2012 and explained to the general that there was some difficulty in the United States of America understanding the actual enforcement of the laws of the United States, which I thought he probably had a really good sense of humor. And if he were alive today, I tell you, I'd shake his hand and kind of tell stories. Now, is there some problem with the support and defense of the United States Constitution? Because when you can use somebody else's brains, I was thinking that Schwarzkopf was attempting to help the United States Army understand the importance of the Constitution. Are there any generals or admirals that disliked him? Oh, look at that. Former director of the CIA, David Petraeus. As that big four-star general that was so involved in Iraq of 2003 to 2010. Yes. Were there some generals and admirals of the United States military that did know that your use of technology was very destructive to the minds? Leon Panetta, former director or secretary of the Department of Defense. Did you think you were going to lizard the whole fucking population because your stupid noses? When I start thinking about America's education and the importance of schools understanding why they have to enforce the parenting rights of American citizens and proving the fraud and the forgeries of Heidi Lee Budner, ooch, and the under the penalty of perjury, General. Pooh. Let's say I had the authority of Schwarzkopf during the 91 conflict, where he had command of 540,000 men and women. You would think America could do a lot better job understanding America's educational system if somebody not wanting the school boards. Now, for every general and admiral that thinks that, well, I'm not going to do what he says, you can go to fucking prison. Do you understand? There is what's known as the oath of the general as well as the command of those in the United States military. Don't think that I've forgotten that I've been very active in intelligence for the last 7 years, and you want to say I'm delusional, but I just told you what you stupid fuckers did. It's not delusion to pull up the actual court record and prove that you did not give me notice of the settlement conference setting hearing. Yes. That you're issuing court orders that don't have the acknowledgement of the petitioner. Ooch. That this is or is not the actual signature of the ex officio Superior Court clerk. Now, for you delusional judges that want to say that Americans are crazy, you have got to be the most insane group of individuals in the history of this nation to not realize. Now, we might need some more generals and admirals to be a little bit more proactive because I want my sons. And I want you to understand, Superior Court Ken Williams, yes, this comment entry on 5/24/2012, I actually did go to court and I wanted to know exactly what that says. Oh, but they told me, no, I don't get to know that. I thought, as the party to the court case, I got to know everything about it. You could make up some bullshit about somebody being crazy because you don't want them to know what they don't know. Now, that would be another crime, wouldn't it? One is exploiting what they don't know, and then exploiting what they don't know that they do get to know because you won't let them know. Oh. Now, notice of temporary motion for temporary order on 10/5. Yes. Now, that was 2, 3 weeks later. Yes. She declared that she had mailed the information, but you had no actual proof of service, right? And you decided to award that. Oh, parenting plan, temporary order for support, and then a motion hearing. Yes. Now, I wasn't there, was I? Because I didn't get notice of court hearings. Exactly who's the delusional, schizophrenic, bipolar individual that happened to be employed in the judiciaries of the United States that doesn't understand the importance? You know, I put some links to some law libraries of every state of the United States. The King County Law Library, the Library of Congress. Oh, did you know they have a law section in the Congress? Now, when you sit there and say, well, we're going to arrest the guy and put him in mental institution, when I've just proven that you intentionally exploited your position in government, why is it that you're not in a mental institution? Can you explain to me why each and every one of you hasn't gone through a mental health evaluation and had a psychotropic medication involuntarily? Why don't you get me some more generals and admirals? It seems that America's judiciary doesn't understand the importance of due process.